Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Gajananam Bhudaganadi Sevidam Kabitta Jambho Balasara Pakshitham Umasudam Sokha Vinashakaranam Namami Vickneswara Pada Pankajam. Om Gajananam Mahakayam Vicknarajam Vinayagam Vishvesham Vishvashaksham Ganeshayam Namo Namaha. Om Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalar Spatikhatrudhim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Ayagrivam Yasyadvirada Vakradhyaya Parishatya Parashatham Vignam Nignam Tisatatham Vishwashremam Tamashraye. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Sarvalokanam Bisaje Bhavaroginaha Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Sahanao Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Sri Krishna Yarpanamastu. Om Partaya Pratibodhitham Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitham Purana Muninam Madhya Mahabharate Advaita Amrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaധ്യായിനീം Amba Tvam Anushodadami Bhagavad Gita Bhavat Veshinim. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Devaki Nandana Yarpanamastu. Om. In conjunction with Trayodasha Tithi, which was yesterday, and Chaturdasi Tithi, which is today, which marks the birth of the fourth avatar of Vishnu, which is Narasimha avatar, right? He took the avatar on Triyodashi, and because it happened in the twilight hours, so Triyodasi and Chaturdasi are both significant in celebrating Narasimha Jayanti, right? So for all those people who are born and who have the nakshatra of Narasimha, Swati nakshatra, be pleased to know that the presiding deity of your Swati nakshatra, that means the deity that guards and protects you, is Sri Narasimha. Okay, so just to pay him an obeisance, I'm going to recite one verse from the Narasimha Kavacha. Okay, Harihi Om. Ugram Veeram Mahavishnum Jwalantam Sarvatomukham Narasimham Veshanam Bhadram Mrityur Namamyaham. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Narasimha Murtaye Pranamastu. So we have come to the final, the grand finale in the key teachings, or the key lessons, as I like to refer to it, in Mahabharata. Right? Anybody can teach, but it is for the listener to get the lesson. Yeah, so I always refer to it as key lessons, yeah, and key teachings. So today we're going to look at another two, great characters that played multifarious roles in engendering the war in Kurukshetra, right? The war of Mahabharata. One on the red side of the ring is Shakuni, and on the blue side of the ring you have Yudhisthira, right? The elder until Karna was known to be the eldest. He was the eldest of the five. Then he became number 2 of the 6, right? But I think when I spoke about Karna, I said Karna never asked, even after they all knew that he was the eldest brother, to be given that respect, to be given that position. He always said, Yudhisthira will always be the eldest, right? That is humility, right? Many people will enforce their position to have that sort of dominance, over a long period of time. So let's talk about Shakuni. Shakuni means, actually, if you look at Shakuni, the actual meaning from a Sanskrit perspective is one who is likened to a large bird. How can I say a large bird? Yeah, like a vulture, for example, right? And, he's one of the key antagonists, apart from, they say more powerful than the king is the kingmaker. So if the king of the bad guys was Duryodhana, then the kingmaker is obviously Shakuni, right? Shakuni, right? Shakuni also means one who slightly walks with a little gait, right? That's because of his broken leg. That's a different story. So Shakuni was the prince of Gandhara. I think I mentioned before, maybe once or twice, that Gandhara, as it then was known, today it is called Kandahar. Kandahar, of course, is the south of Afghanistan, right? If you look at the map, right, you will know in the early days, the Indian Empire was huge. It spread in all ways, right? Right up to, Vietnam on this side, right? Hence, you have all the big major temples, cutting across, broadly, east to west, and so to a certain extent up to the north, right? So Gandhara, that time it was the Indian kingdom, and the ruler was King Saubhala. Saubhala, sometimes referred to as Subhala, right? Now, he was the prince. Now, obviously, if you look at Shakuni, he was always portrayed as being crafty, being devious, being vicious. That's the story we know of him, right? And of course, he used his Rajatantras, right, to influence, control, and manipulate Duryodhana, who was the eldest of the Kauravas, to get whatever he wanted to do, but through Duryodhana, right? And of course, at the end of the day, what you do comes back to you. It's like, as I always say, it's like a boomerang, your thoughts, like a boomerang, comes back to you. Your words, like a boomerang, comes back to you. Your actions, as a boomerang, comes back to you. And all with, as I say always, astounding accuracy. You never escape. So all the gurus have said to us, Swami has also said, right? Think good, speak good, do good. Then you'll feel good. Simple. Right? So don't think I'm not saying anything. In my mind, I'm thinking even that has repercussions, right? It is called mano karma, vak karma, karya karma. So all this, 100% there is a rebound. It's coming back to you, right? And if that's my 3 sessions on karma is there on YouTube. So you may want to revisit that if you want to go back to the types of karma and how it impacts you. Okay. He was also known by some other names, like, for example, he was called Parvatya. Parvat, as you know, represents hills or mountains. And of course, Kandahar, if you look at the geology of it, the building of it from a geographical perspective, right, it is full of hills and whatnot. One who is from the mountain, Parvatya. He is also known as Kitava. Kitava, later comes back to Shakuni because it's an apt name for him, right? Kitava means one who gambles, and one who gambles with utmost skill, and that skill is not direct skill, it's indirect skill. So a bit of trickery, a bit of, jadoo and that kind of thing. But what we want to do here is contradicting, not contradicting, contrary to what many experts have said. They always describe Shakuni as being insidious, inscrutable, those kind of terminologies, right? But we want to see, in examining this character called Shakuni, who was he in reality? Number one. Number two, was he a villain who was just vastly misunderstood, or was he a victim of circumstance? Thirdly, we want to see if there's a better side to him. Is there something positive? Is there something good about him? And of course, his role in the entire drama that unfolded, from the time his sister Gandhari got married to Yudhisthira and became the wife. So from that time he got involved, and then we can see how his role played a significant role, or anything less than that. So in one of the Puranas, it is said that in Dwapara Yuga, that's when the Krishna avatar took place, Shakuni was actually the incarnation of a demon called Dwapar. Dwapar is the demon that presides over the Dwapara Yuga. Just like there's a devas who preside, there's also demons, right? So there is a balance between, the Shaivic energies and the Ashavic energies. So anyway, he, his Gandhari was his sister, and of course, he had other brothers. He had two other brothers called Achala and Vrishaka. But of course, they were not heard of, and they had actually not played a role at all. Shakuni was also married, and he had a son called Uluka, who subsequently, after the entire war and all that, he was one of the fellows who started to rule Gandhara, one of the descendants of Shakuni. And of course, when, it goes back to the point when Bhishma, when I talked about Bhishma in week 4, I think it was 3 or 4, I said to you, he went and he was looking for brides for, Pandu is okay, but Dhritarashtra. And then he came back with Gandhari. Initially, Gandhari's father, King Shubala, he refused because he said, no, I don't want my daughter to marry a blind man. But then Bhishma impressed upon him the greatness of the Kuru dynasty and said, whether you like it or not, she is going to be the Rajamatha, and we are going to take her. So you might as well agree. So she was taken like that. And of course, the marriage took place, and Shakuni then followed his sister from the Gandhara kingdom and went with her to Hastinapur. He stayed there for a while. And then, of course, he came back because, his father was not well and he had to take over the kingdom and all of that, which he subsequently did. But then after a few months, I think it was around 9 or 10 months, he came back because he was really worried about his sister, Gandhari, who, of course, upon marriage, also blinded herself because she wanted to experience what her husband was experiencing, which was very noble. And even then, right, you see, this is one of the teachings in the Shastras, which says, when you begin to regulate and control your senses, by virtue of that control, you beget siddhic powers. That is why you see our rishis and indeed some of our gurus, on certain days, they practice certain codes of behavior, like this Maunavrat. Means the whole day, 24 hours, they don't speak, or 2 days, they don't speak. Fantastic siddhic powers you get, right? You don't have to take my word for it. You should try it. Okay, try it. That means not a syllable comes out of your mouth. Complete silence. Complete silence. Ears are open, but you're not responding. It also teaches you, fantastic humility and a sense of control, that you don't have to answer everybody all the time, right? The other way is to close your eyes. That means for one whole day, you don't see anything. When your eyes are closed, if you really observe and you really focus, you can see such brightness when your eyes are closed. And in that light, you can command what you want to see, right? And it's fantastic, I can close my eyes and find myself standing in front of, for example, at the moment now, I'm in front of Tirupati. So you can, through these Siddhic powers, transport yourself anywhere. That is the power. And that is why I always said, when you're young, travel to all these places, holy places, sattvic places, temples, gurdwaras, wherever, and absorb the energy, so that when you're old, when you're less able physically, you just sit somewhere and then go to all these places by closing your eyes. When your eyes close, your astral eyes open. Right? The astral eyes remain shut as long as your eyes are open. So the choice is verily yours. So she had a lot of Siddhic powers that she had gained all those years where she had closed her eyes. And that is the power that she gave to Duryodhana. Right? Remember, when I spoke about Duryodhana, I said, he went to see his mother. And then, he was told to come in, completely nude. So she can, when she sees him, his entire body gets the power. But Krishna on the way said, how can you go and face your mother? Krishna, is a master of trickery, right? He will not say lies, but he will say the facts in such a way that you will do what he is asking you to do. So at least, here, take this banana leaf and at least cover, the loin. So he went. So the power was only from waist upwards. He was invincible. That is why Krishna told Bhima, hit him in the thighs. Throw your gada at his thighs. And that was his downfall. Anyway, the point is, right, the Siddhic powers that you can accumulate purely by doing certain, behavioral rituals, controlling of senses, right? So you can control your sense of speech, sense of taste, eating. You have to do upavas. Upavas means completely fasting. And fasting means not just abstaining from food or drinks, right? How our people fast. Our people will fast. If one day they eat 7 times, fasting means they eat only 3 times. Right? And vegetarian. Fasting means vegetarian. No, fasting means absolutely, and some will even go as far as nirjalam. Nirjalam means not even a drop of water. No water, no food. Sunrise to sunset. Right? This is what the Muslims practice when they do the Ramadan, sunrise to sunset. Right? Anyway, the difference is, before we fast, we don't eat anything, right? But they have, they get up early in the morning and they eat so that they can fast the whole day. That's fine, But what I'm saying is upavas means not just abstaining from food or drinks or both, but abstaining from sensual activities, thoughts, words, actions, sound, sight. These 5 must be in control. That is proper fasting, right? So Shakuni was not very happy that his wonderful, lovely sister had to cover her eyes just because she's married to a blind man. And that is why he decided to be with her, to make sure that she's looked after and, there is no problem with her at any point in time. Of course, Shakuni did many things. He was there when the Kaurava brothers were born. Of course, he was there as well at the time, although not there in person, witnessing the birth of the 5 Pandava brothers. He was there at the time, and both the schools, the Pandavas and the Kauravas went to the Gurukula under, the mastership of Dronacharya. And of course, the biggest guru of all is Bhishmacharya was there. So he was there throughout. But already he could see, right, that the Pandavas were becoming very, very strong, despite being 5 in numbers. That 5 is significant because we have the Pandavas within us. The Pandavas are the 5 senses, the Panchabhutas, the Pancha Indriyas, right? And the Panchavyahus, Prana, Apana, Samana, Vyana, and Amana, 5. That is why when the acharyas in the temple, they offer, Naivedya or prasad to the gods, they say, oh, pranaya swaha, panaya swaha, vyanaya swaha, samanaya swaha, udanaya swaha, brahmane swaha, like that. 5 panchavyahus. So 5 is very significant like that. And Shakuni knew these guys are getting very, very powerful. We have to do something. Then he saw that the eldest among the Kuru kids, if I can refer to them that way, right, was the Duryodhana. And he observed Duryodhana. He said, this fellow is very easily manipulated. Therefore, I'm going to use him as my sword and whenever necessary as my shield. He is a master craftsman, this Shakuni, right? And of course, from young, the first thing he did was, because Bhima was the strongest among the, I told you each 5 of the Pandavas, they all had their respective strength, right? And they all played their own respective roles and killed different people in the Kuru dynasty during the 18 days of war, right? Of course, among them, the 2 names that always came out was Arjuna and Bhima, right? Bhima killed almost, 90% of the Kaurava brothers anyway, right? 90, or I say 95% he killed, right? Anyway, so the first thing he did was he counseled Duryodhana in such a way to poison Bhima. Bhima did in fact drink the poison, but he was revived in good time, in the nick of time. He was. Then, of course, he was the mastermind behind the candle castle. Of course, the what do you call, the Lakshagraha. And that, when burnt down, of course, the Pandavas escaped, and later they were found to be alive, and that was another big blow. And then, of course, the point of who is going to be replacing, then again the issue came between whether it's going to be Yudhisthira or it's going to be Duryodhana, and then it was decided it's going to be Yudhisthira. That's when the problem started. And of course, to cut a long story short, they gave them, this barren land, desert, which is Kandaprastha. And of course, they, by virtue of their hard work, effort, and with the grace of Krishna, was always with them. And that's why I said, if God is with you, why do you need anybody else? You don't need anyone else, because if God is with you, he will not let anything bad happen to you. Even if bad is happening, he will reduce the impact, because God himself, you see all the avatars that came, they themselves were subject to karma, right? Particularly if you look at the humanic avatars, right? If you look at the theory of evolution, Darwin's theory of evolution, if you look at the avatars, they all followed that similarly. Or I would say Darwin's theory of evolution followed the Dashavadaram theory. First was Matsya avatar, purely in water, and Darwin's theory of evolution refers to this as amoeba. Then something from water and land both, right? We have the Kurma avatar. We have, on it. And then we have Varaha, and then 4th was Narasimha, 5th was Vamana, the dwarf, 6th, Parasurama, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki, right? Like that. If you look at that, the theory of evolution reflects in this Dasavataram theory. So, Shakuni, talking about Shakuni, right? He noticed that, we can't let this go. So he was behind all these plans. So he told Duryodhana, give them that piece of land, let them go and rule that. Of course, they turned Kandaprastha into Indraprastha and became so beautiful, so well developed, evolved in so way. So they called all these fellows, come, we are having a big, what we call housewarming party, Graha Pravesh. Okay. And they all went, and again, it was so beautiful that they could not differentiate between what was real and what was unreal, what was illusion, what was realistic, So they had some encounters there. But I mean, encounters is the Kaurava brothers, like Duryodhana had a fall and all of that, and people were laughing at him. At least that's what Duryodhana said, as a result of which he always had a bone to pick with Bhima. And, one of the accusations he made was Draupadi also laughed at him. So he said, I will deal with you in my own time. And he did, in the war, when the game of dice was taking place in Kurukshetra, Of course, they were invited. I'm moving on to the game of dice. He'd done many things, right? Now we're coming to the crown jewel of Shakuni's actions and adventures. He invited them, he told Duryodhana, invite him for a game of dice with you. And of course, when they come, tell him that you're not well and you're going to use me as your proxy to play the game. And he had made special dice. I told you one of his name is Kitava, who's, the great gambler. He's also a master of some, tantric forces, Shakuni, right? So what I'm saying is, right, anybody can learn tantras. You can use tantras in the positive way. You can use tantras in a negative way. Both will engender results. Both will engender consequences. When I say consequences, I mean karmic consequences, right? So there are three ways, right, in bhakti: mantra, yantra, and tantra. Whichever way you go, right? As you think and as you do, you beget. Anyway, Shakuni made special dice from the bones of his, late father. And he, of course, he infused that with some tantric mantra. So the dice will listen to him. If he says turn clockwise, turn anti-clockwise, it will do. So let's say it falls down and you see number 6, and Shakuni will instruct it in his mind. Turn clockwise. And it may become 4, it may become 2, like that. So he had full control of the game. And he already discussed this with Duryodhana early. So when they all came, of course, Yudhisthira is a Dharma Prabhu. That means he never challenges what you say, what you think, as long as he is only focused on his own sense of thinking, his own sense of speech, and his own sense of actions. That is why even in Dronacharya said, if Yudhisthira confirms that Ashwatthama is dead, then I will believe you. And of course, I told you, when I spoke about Dronacharya, I mentioned this, just before his death. He was told that Ashwatthama has died. Ashwatthama was the elephant which was killed. So Yudhisthira merely said Ashwatthama, and indistinctly he said the elephant is dead. So when Dronacharya asked him for confirmation, he said, yes, Ashwatthama, the elephant, is dead. Okay, so he never questioned why Duryodhana is asking Shakuni to play. Can we reschedule them when you're better? We'll come back. We can play. Nothing. Said, okay, that's fine. If that's what you say, I'll play with him. Because, when you are right down honest and you are very direct with what you do, you expect others to be like that. So you don't suspect anything. You don't think something untoward or irregular is going to happen. But Shakuni is not like that. He's always planning something above and beyond what is right. Okay. So, of course, the game happened. And of course, the story, one after the other was being put up as pawn. And in the end, Yudhisthira lost himself. And when he lost himself, he lost all his 4 brothers, including Draupadi. And that is the time Duryodhana, actually it was Karna who said, you always said you wanted to take revenge. Now is your time. So Karna played a small role in inciting, right? But of course, he got his comeuppance during the war, before death and all of that. Anyway, so, and Draupadi was brought, and Duryodhana told Dushasena, now you can humiliate her. And I said, no one said anything except Vidura and Vikarna. Vidura is the brother of Yudhisthira, and Vikarna is one of the Kaurava brothers, the only Sattvic one among the entire Rajasic 99. No one else said anything. So they all got their karma palan, right? The karmic fruit as a result of that silence, right? From Bhishma to Drona to all the mothers. Only when Draupadi was saying, I'm going to curse them, because she is fire. She was born of fire. She is fire, right? Agni. Agni will just treat everything in an indiscriminate manner. Anything you feed to Agni, it will consume, devour, and bring it to one state of existence of equanimity. That's when Gandhari said, please stop this. Because once she curses, that's it. There's no turning back. That's when that was stopped, and they agreed to send them off, for 14 years, 13 years, and plus 1 incognito, Ajnanavasa, right? And they went after that. But that was also Shakuni. That was all Shakuni's doing, right? Now, Shakuni, as I said to you earlier, right, he was perceived as being wicked, being cunning, extremely scheming all the time, insidious, so to speak, right? But, his entire mission was in that sense, right, full of vengeance, full of always wanting to take revenge, right? I mean, there are many reasons behind this. If you go behind the reasons, right? If you go behind the scenes and you look at the reasons, why was he like that? Well, firstly, he was not happy that his sister was taken forcefully, right, from Gandhara, the kingdom of Gandhara, and made to marry a blind king, after which his entire family suffered for that. And he had to give up his kingdom in order to be there. Of course, there was no need, because at the end of the day, she is the wife of Yudhisthira and she's the mother of the Kauravas. So there is no way she's going to be in a disadvantageous position. But Shakuni himself was not sure that she'd be well looked after, right? So he took it upon himself to make sure. But the person that he really wanted to take action against was not the Pandavas, right? He only wanted to take action against Bhishma because he is the creator of all this. So he went there saying, I'm going to get you, old man, He also wanted to see, because his sister's children, his own nephews, the 100 Kauravas, he wanted to see them win over the 5 Pandavas. So he said, I cannot make that happen if I'm far away. I have to be with them all the time. But of course, you can be with the mass. You only need one, the supreme power, to be with you. And Krishna was all the time with the Pandavas. Although he did not show any favoritism, right? He never did any favors for the Pandavas. He was with them. So the point I'm trying to say is just having God's presence with you is enough. He doesn't have to come out of his hiding to do favors to you. He doesn't have to do that. Just his presence, right? And so we have the concept of God is omnipresent. If God is omnipresent, then can you imagine how, rightful, what is your dharma, sanatana dharma, your eternal righteousness, your eternal right conduct must be there. If God is omnipresent, everywhere you go, your thoughts must be aligned, your words must be aligned, your actions must be aligned. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything adharmic. You're not thinking, speaking, or doing anything adharmic. Because you accept the fact that God is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. So why should you say, oh, God is only there between 4 and 7 if you go to this temple? Or between 6 and 7, when I enter my puja room, God is there. No. That is the power of omnipresence. It sort of regulates your entire thoughts, words, and actions. Right? So Shakuni always incited bad things to happen by saying the right things to Duryodhana and his brothers. From poisoning Bhima's food, to the burning of the Lakshagraha, the palace of wax, leading up to the playing of the dice. Even when the Pandavas were in the forest, right, he wanted to do damage to them. And one day he had heard that the great sage Durvasa Muni is known for his anger and the powers of, he will do sharp to you, he will curse you if you're not, correctly behaving or saying the right thing or doing the right thing, he will curse you. Okay. Anger. He was also known in the Vishnu Purana. He is the one who actually went to see Vishnu, but Vishnu was in the state of Ananta Shayana. Ananta Shayana means in eternal bliss. So when he spoke many times and Vishnu didn't listen, he actually kicked Vishnu on the chest. Right? And then, of course, Vishnu followed him and say, you are so tired. I'm so sorry to have not listened to you, to have heard you. Let me press your leg as a sign of forgiveness, because Vishnu knew that his eye of arrogance or ahankara was right below his toes, right toe. So he took hold of the right leg and pressed that eye until it disappeared. And suddenly Durvasa realized, and he sought forgiveness because he said, you can't be touching my feet. He said, no, this is why I did it. Because the whole thing was to bring you to this stage, for me to do this and to get you out of this curse of ahankara. So anyway, The point is, Durvasa was very angry, right? The fact that he could kick Vishnu, that means you must understand, rishis are very powerful people, but sometimes it's what we call abuse of dominant position. Right? So this is a concept there. So he appeared before Durvasa and said, since you are going to have a bath in the river, after bathing, come to the hut here where food will be prepared for you. So he's referring to the food where Draupadi and the Pancha Pandavas are, right? So Durvasa said, okay, we will have a bath, we'll do our prayers, and then we'll come for lunch. So Shakuni went and told Draupadi that Durvasa Muni and his, the people who are following him, all the rishis are coming here for lunch. I'm just passing you a message. You see how he created the thing. He says, I'm just passing you a message. The rest is yours. Now, Draupadi had just finished all the food, feeding, the Pandavas and all that. And she looked in the vessel. There was nothing there. So she was very anxious and she prayed to Krishna. Krishna came and he said, why, Draupadi? Why? She said, this is what has happened. Krishna closed his eyes and then he smiled. He said, ha, Shakuni Muni. Ah, right. Okay. He said, go and bring the vessel. Right. She brought the vessel to him. Krishna looked in the vessel. There was nothing except a small blade of, one of those vegetables, little like a dhanya leaf. Just a small piece of little dhanya was stuck at the bottom. He took that dhanya, right? He said, Sarvam Brahmarpanam. And he ate. And he ate and he gave out a big burp. When he did that, all the rishis who were bathing in the river and they came out and they changed, and they were going to sit down to do their puja, they all felt as though they had had such a heavy meal. That burp, Sarvam Brahma Arpanam. Then he asked Draupadi to, drop 3 waters. Achyuthaya, Ananthaya, Govindaya Swaha. That means he has fed all 3 worlds. They were so full that they sent message to Draupadi saying, thank you, we are very full, we can't come this day, we'll come another day to eat. So even when he is not present, even when the Pandavas were absent from the kingdom, Shakuni still tried to give them problem. This is the quality, they say the leopard never changes its spots, right? And then, of course, he tricked Shalya. Shalya is actually the brother-in-law of Pandu, right? And he was tricked by Shakuni and Duryodhana. And then he was made to become the charioteer for Karna, right? Through some trickery, right? He was called for a big meal and feast. This is before the war, or just before the onset of the war. And then, he thought this was being hosted by the Pandavas. And so he offered his services, his people, his army and all of that. Then he came to know that, there was no Pandavas there. It was the Kauravas and it was a trickery. And he then went straight to Yudhisthira and said, this is what has happened. But as I've given them my word, I will be fighting on their side. So he's an honorable man, Shalya. So tricking Shalya was also Shakuni's. And Shalya is the guy, just before Karna's death, remember, he abandoned the chariot and he ran away, right? And only to die in the hands of Nakula and Sahadeva after that. Another thing that Shakuni did was he played a major role in the killing of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu, is the son of Arjuna. Abhimanyu is a fantastic warrior at such a young age. He had mastered, the Chandravihu. That means he knew how to enter, because as he was in his mother's womb and he heard his father Arjuna telling, Subhadra, how it's going to take place, what is the formation, what is the mantra to enter and all of that. But he could not finish his story because he only managed to tell Subhadra how you enter, how you break the Chaturpyahu formation, the war formation. But he was called by, Yudhisthira, so he left. So what Abhimanyu heard was how to break and get in, but then he did not know how to get out. Shakuni knew this, and he said, this fellow is caught now. He's broken it, he's damaged it, but we will not let him get out. So he told, all the Kauravas who were around there, and Drona was there, Bhishma was there, Karna was there, Duryodhana was there, Dushasena was there, and of course, Shakuni was there. He asked all of them First he told Drona to send an arrow to make him lose his weapons. So he was just standing there. Nirayudapani. That means one who is left on his own without any weapons. Nirayudapani. Okay. And then he told them to hit him with arrows. And finally, he gave the sword to Karna. He said, go. And Karna went. And for some bonding, happened there. They were talking for a while. And Shakuni and Duryodhana said, just finish the job and come. And Karna said, I am so sorry to do this to you. There was a point in time when, one day in the war, I was so thirsty and you gave me water. So I am sorry to do this, because he was asking for water. Abhimanyu was asking for some water. Even the water they did not give, none of the Kauravas gave. And so Karna put the sword through him, and that was the end of Abhimanyu. All this was completely masterminded by Shakuni, right? It was not just like that, And Shakuni himself fought all the 5 brothers, right, in different days. In day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. But in the end, he met his end in the hands of Sahadeva, the youngest. Sahadeva killed Shakuni at the end of the day. The slaying of Shakuni was not easy, but even then Sahadeva said, you just recall everything that you have done. Whatever you came to do, you have achieved. This war could have been avoided if not for you, if not for your role, if not what you said, what you did, how you completely engendered the entire, masterminded the whole thing. Now is the time to regret and leave. Actually, Sahadeva said, leave. I will let you go, because you are still, my uncle, so to speak. But at that moment in time, Shakuni had a change of heart. He said, no, let me die in this battlefield for everything that I've done. Because he knew there is no way to escape, right? If Sahadeva does not kill him, another one of those Pandava brothers will definitely kill him before he escapes Kurukshetra. So he said, I am going to end my life here, and I'm going to fight you till the end. So he started fighting, and of course, at the end of the day, Sahadeva slayed him. Right? But there are some things that, we need to know about Shakuni, right? One thing is, as I said earlier, he had no real animosity towards the Pandavas. The Pandavas did nothing to him. Pandu did nothing to him. Pandu's wife, Pandava's mother, Kunti, did nothing to him. So he had real no animosity. But in order to get the best out of Duryodhana, he had to defriend himself from the Kauravas, from the Pandavas, right? He knew his brother-in-law, the Yudhisthira, didn't like them. But he knew Bhishma and Drona favored them. So he asked Duryodhana to get to Ashwatthama, who was the son of Drona, so that Drona can be pulled into their camp. Bhishma, of course, he's taken the oath of allegiance towards the Kuru dynasty. So he never wavered from that. Well, that's one of the things, right? Then, of course, he actually was a very devoted bhakta of Lord Shiva. There was a point in time when every Monday at a certain specific time, Monday, as you know, is Somvar, Soma. Soma is, of course, Lord Shiva, also the name for Monday. He used to be absent for a specific time. One day, Duryodhana asked him, Mama, where do you go during this time? Every Monday you're absent. Then Shakuni took him to his temple where he worships Lord Shiva, right? Shiva was his Ishtadevata, right? But the point is, even though you are praying, but you're doing adharmic things, at the end of the day, you will meet your end through adharmic means, right? Actually, if you go to Kerala, there's actually a temple dedicated to Shakuni, right? It is in Kollam district in Kerala, and it's called. This is the place apparently where he attained moksha, right? Place that he went, his soul was sent upwards from there. It's called Pakuteshwaram Sthala, right? Now it's called Pavitreshwaram. Pakuteshwaram is division. Apparently, in one of the trips with the Kaurava brothers and all that's where they divided all the weapons amongst themselves. Shakuni was the one who divided. So that is called Pakutesh. That means the act of dividing. Hence, it became known as Pakuteshwaram. Now it's called Pavitreshwaram in the area of Kollam district in Kerala. So if you ever down that way, go and seek this temple, and that is the temple dedicated to Shakuni. But there is no pujas or rituals or any sort of that sort of things. Nothing is done there. You can go and see him. You can offer coconut or silk or vastra or something like that. The same Kaurava community, the Kuru dynasty, the lineage, right? They are the ones who are maintaining that temple. Strange as it may seem. So it's fantastic what you can learn from history, right? So it's not just secluded or peculiar to Mahabharata. Today, if you go to Kollam, this temple is there. It's maintained by the descendants of the Kuru dynasty. And then, of course, Shakuni is the main focus in that temple. So what can we learn from Shakuni? We can learn intelligence and strategic thinking. Strategic thinking. So these are the good things we extract. Forget about what he did and all of that. These are the good characters that we can have. If amongst all the bad people you decide who's bad, who's good, right? From the good, if you take the good, from the bad also you can take some good. See, Shakuni, intelligence is somewhere else. Strategic thinking. Everything he's planned. But his loyalty and devotion also second to none, right? His sense of resilience and adaptability is another quality that you and I can take on board. Also, when it came to the war, his creativity and innovation on how to do this, how to do that, go this way, go that way, take this, do that. That is also very good. So we can take that to be a good point for us. Leave all the bad things. We can take the good things and inculcate in our own lives, isn't it? Self-confidence, assertiveness. Fifth and most best quality that he had, we can take that, confidence. Whatever it is, no, God will not let me down because I have done no wrong, not in my thoughts, not in my words, not in my actions. So the dharma of good conduct says that you will never be let down. As I always say, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. If you protect dharma, dharma will protect you. There's no doubt about that. That is Shakuni. Now we go to Yudhisthira. 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 Two words, right? Yud, of course, means war, right? Isthira means one who is steady, one who is consistent, one who is constant. So Yudhisthira is one who in times of war is always steady. And let me just tell you what they mean by war here, right? War at three levels of existence. War in your mind, thoughts, war in your words, speech, and war in your actions, to do, not to do, to do, not to do. So Yudhisthira is one who is always steady in his thoughts, in his words, and in his actions. As long as you maintain that status quo, you are fine. But once you lose one of the alignments, then all three will go. And that's what happened in the game of dice. Because he was thinking, how can I lose this? I must win it back. So I play again. I've lost again. No. I am definitely sure I can win it back. So he went along those lines. He was confident, but for the wrong reasons. And the rest, of course, as you know, is history. But Yudhisthira was also known by many other names. For example, he's called Bharatavanshi, which is a descendant of Bharata. Ajata Shatru, one who is Ajata Shatru. Shatru, as you know, is enemies. Ajata means you don't have. So one who is born without enemies. Of course, he's the son of Dharmaraja, Yamaraja, Yamadharmaraja, right? And then, of course, it's called Dharmaputra or Dharmananda. One is the son of Dharma or righteousness, or the son of Yamadharmaraja. Pandu Putra, son of Pandu, Pandavaraja, eldest of the Pandavas. Then he's called Jeshta Kaunteya, eldest of the son of Kunti. Jeshta. Jeshta means eldest, Kanishta means youngest. You will see these two words in the, if I'm not mistaken, the 6th Anuvaka of Sri Rudram, right? Jeshta and Kanishta. Jeshta cha Kanishta cha Namas Purvaya cha, Jeshta, Kanishta. So Shiva is the eldest as well as the youngest in the entire range of creation. Jyeshta and Kanishta. Sarvabhauma, emperor of the planet Earth, because his father is the emperor of Dharma, right? So many names he was known. Of course, I told you the story of how Kunti got the boon, right, from Agastya, and she first tested it on the sun, and out came Karna. And because she was young, not married, and all of that, she set him off on a little basket, put her shawl and some of her jewelry in there, and he was found by his father, who found him, who was the charioteer for Dhritarashtra. Okay, hence he was completely taken off. Then, of course, second time she tried it on Dharmaraja, right? And then Bhima, Vayu, and Indra, Arjuna. And then the Ashwini twins was Madri, the second wife of Pandu. She got the twins from Ashwini, from the Ashwini twins, Nakula and Sahadeva. So they were all trained together. They grew up together. There is no big history, right? When they were young, he was just the eldest brother. So everybody listened to him. The four people always listened to him. And his mother would say, listen to your eldest brother, right? Listen to your bhai, eldest. And of course, they went to the Gurukula, everything grew. Even when Bhima was poisoned and all that, Yudhisthira said, it's okay. Let's not be worked up. Let's make sure that he is okay and he is well. So he was always on the right side of things. And of course, he was married to Devika. There are many other stories that he was married to this person and that person, but that we're not concerned with that. We are concerned what his role was in the, in Mahabharata, particularly as the eldest of the Pandava brothers. He ruled Indraprastha, right? He was crowned as king. He ruled Indraprastha. Then he wanted to conquer, so they expanded the kingdom, and he did a Rajasuya Yajna. And then, of course, he never actually got Hastinapura, right? And because they are doing so well, despite being ostracized and kicked out of the kingdom, they built another kingdom which was far more, industrious, far more rich, far more green, far more productive than Hastinapur. So now Duryodhana, on the inciting of Shakuni, he said, okay, we have to get that kingdom as well, right? We have to get that Indraprastha as well, because they can't be allowed to do that. See, not only they didn't want them to be in Hastinapura, now you've thrown them somewhere far. They went and made something out of that place, and they are growing. Again, you want to go and do something, right? Antagonizing, in other words. That's why the two greatest antagonists, Shakuni and Duryodhana. So the game of dice was created and all of that. And then, of course, to cut a long story short, they went to exile. Even when he was in exile, he never failed to do his daily, Jalatirtha Yantra. He's able to do that. And once, I think Draupadi was saying that, there is not much to cook with. And he was in deep meditation when he was approached by sage Daumya. Daumya told him what to do to solve the problem. You see, this is why I always say, when you are in deep problem, you just surrender it to God and just close your eyes and say, I have completely left it to you at your feet. Now you do something. And that surrender comes forth. That means you take no action. Until you take actions, or until you stop taking actions, God will not get involved. The moment you stop and say, here, it's yours, then they will do something. Because until then, you're in control. When you say, I am no longer in control, I cannot do anything, I am destitute, here, I'm giving it to you. That's when God will do something. So Yudhisthira was like that. Daumya came. And who sends Daumya? Some other forces have sent Daumya to help them. So he was told to go and do Surya Upasana at the river. So he went and he did by reciting the Ashtotra, Surya Ashtotra, you know. And, you know, for those of you who want to pray to the sun, who pray to the sun, and it's good to pray to the sun first thing in the morning, right? If you can, put 3 water drops, right? That is why you see people when they go and bathe in holy rivers and all, they take water and put. Many people don't know why they do that. They do that because others are doing it. But you must drop it 3 times, right? Bhut Bhuvat Swaha, you know, Achyudha Anantha Govinda, right? Atma Tattvaya Swaha, Vidya Tattvaya Swaha, Shiva Tattvaya Swaha, 3 levels of existence. So you drop 3 drops of water and you say the Surya. If you know the Surya Gayatri, great. If you know the Surya 108 names, great. Otherwise, you just say Om Hrim Hrim Surya Yanamaha. Now, pray to the sun. Or you say the Gayatri mantra 3 times. You know, pray to the sun every day if you can, right? Because this is where the sun resides. And that is why we put Chandan, which represents sun, Surya, and Kumkum, which represents the moon, Chandra, right? Chaksho Suryo Ajayatha, Mukha Indrascha Agnischa, Pranat Vayurajayatha, you know, Chandrama Manaso Jataha. So that is why we put Chandan and Kumkum, because it gives life to your third eye. Agnya Chakra is enlivened. Can you imagine the power of Surya and the power of Chandra combined? Nothing can survive in this world without the sun and the moon. They both play a role. It doesn't mean only when one is not there, the other shows. No, they are both there. Now the sun is shining. You don't tell me the moon is not there. When the sun sets, you can see the moon. When the moon goes down, the sun comes up. So it doesn't mean they are devoid of each other's presence. They are both present. Their presence are required for the world to function, continuously evolve. So for you to go from one state of spiritual conscience to another stage of spiritual conscience, you need to activate your Agnya Chakra. So as a result of being pleased with Yudhisthira's, you know, obeisance and prayers, Surya gave him something called the Akshaya Patra. He says, this one, whatever you cook, it will continuously be filled until the last person to eat, in your case, which is Draupadi. The moment Draupadi has food, it will be empty. So you will never run short of food. And Surya also said, you will definitely regain your kingdom after 14 years. Surya is the father of Karna. He knows Karna at the end of the day is going to fall at the hands of Arjuna on the insistence of Krishna. But he still said to Yudhisthira, you will regain your kingdom after 14 years, right? So Yudhisthira played different roles, you know, as eldest brother in the young age, and then, you know, when he became the crown prince, and then when he became the king of Indraprastha, everything was done according to Raja Dharma. Raja Dharma means the dharmic behavior of the kings. Even in the Ajnanavasa, you know, he ensured that his brothers were protected at all times, and they did not do anything or any harm to flora and fauna, right? So once Bhima just went and sat on a rock, Yudhishthira said, get up. He cleaned the rock because there were some ants there, you know. So he said, you see, you can't just kill the ants. They are also here for a purpose. See, that is the kind of dharmic conscience that Yudhishthira had. Can you imagine? I've asked you a question, and I asked myself the same question, by the way, right? So I'm not excluding myself from these. How much of that sort of dharmic conscience do we have in our daily life? You know, this is one of the reasons why we put, you know, kolam outside the house. You know, we draw this with rice flour, because all the other life forms that survive has some food. So we say, right, whenever, no, for all auspicious occasions, you do this. In a way, we are doing some dharma. We are doing some dana to all other life forms. So fantastic science behind this. That was, you know, in their final year of Ajnanavasa, incognito, that 1 year where they cannot be seen. Then, of course, the Kurukshetra war came. You know, of course, they went, Krishna went as an emissary. It was not successful. They were not having it. So war was declared. Yudhishthira was made to lead the war. on the Pandava side. Duryodhana was leading in the other side. Of course, the focus of the war was on Arjuna, but the leader was always, the two leads. On this side, Bhishmacharya. On this side, Krishna was there, but he told Yudhisthira to lead the conch. Of course, we know everybody had a role in killing the Kaurava side. The Kaurava side equally had a lot to play, a big role to play in killing, the Pandava side. At the end of the day, the 5 Pandavas survived. None of the Kauravas survived. And of course, when Shakuni died, only Yudhisthira remained, Vidura remained, Gandhari remained, Kunti remained, and of course, everybody else was gone, right? So he always, the only thing he did was, when he said about Ashwatthama to Duryodhana, to Dronacharya, he knew that he was not telling the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So it was a half truth that he said. I mean, Ashwatthama, the elephant, is dead. So that was the truth. But the Ashwatthama he was referring to, and the Ashwatthama that Dronacharya was asking about, was 2 completely different characters. That's the only adharmic deed that he did. And for that also he had to pay the karmic consequences, right? And of course, he was not very happy when he heard from his mother that, as Karna was leaving, after he fell and he was killed by Arjuna, his mother was informed and she ran to him. Kunti Devi came and he said, "This is my eldest son." And then Krishna told what had happened. And everybody was gathered around Karna and was tearing. But you know what Karna's wish was? He said, "I want Duryodhana to do my rights." One who is so balanced in his thought, because he didn't want to create so much of, emotions in the Pandava camp. And of course, it is Duryodhana. I think when I spoke about Duryodhana, I said it was Duryodhana who was so badly hit by Karna's death. And he is the one who did this Karna's final rites. Right? Of course, after the war, he did the Ashwamedha Yajna in Kashi. So if you go to Kashi, there's so many ghats. And the Ganga Arati always takes place in the Dasha Ashwamedha Ghat. Dasha means 10, Ashwamedha means horse sacrifice, right? And this has been happening for, hundreds and hundreds of years, this Ganga Arati, right? I once spoke to one of the, rishis there in one of my trips many years ago. I said, "How long is this happening? Has this been happening? And how long is this going to happen?" He said, "This is Dasha Ashwamedha Yajna." Ashwa means the sacrifice of a horse, right? Dasha Ashwamedha Yajna means a sacrifice of 10 horses. And each time you do it, so you can see how it has multiplied over the years, because that was the way of the kings giving thanks for winning great wars. They do a Ashwamedha Yajna. Of course, it is stopped now, right? Even like, people, when they do Chandi Homam, for example, in the olden days, they used to sacrifice cows, Chandi, But now that is stopped, they just sacrifice a lime. The lime, therefore, represents the powerful notion of what a cow represents. So you see, the amount of blood that has flowed into Ganga is still not appeased. And it is said in the Ganga Purana that the day when the Ganga Arati is being sung, Ganga will rise and you can see her completely dressed in white or white light. And that is the signal that I no longer need this Arati to be performed, because I am now completely eco-balanced. So we don't know how many more years or decades or centuries the Ganga Arati will go on, but it will go on, it won't stop, right? So that is Yudhisthira, right? What can we learn from the Yudhisthira? I said to you, he said half-truth, right? And he had to go and get his karmic consequences. So now I'm fast-forwarding to the part where all the Pandavas have died. and Yudhisthira was the last to ascend to heaven. And he was always with a dog. We don't know who the dog was, but he was always with the dog. So when he arrived at heaven, Yudhisthira saw Duryodhana. He saw all the Kaurava brothers, but he didn't see Draupadi. He didn't see Arjuna, Bhima, Nakula, Sahadeva. He didn't see any of them. So he asked the sage Narada, who was accompanying him, just leave him there. He said, where's everybody? I can't find them. I look, all these fellows are here, Duryodhana and the rest of the Kauravas. But where are my brothers and where's Draupadi? Even Drishtadyumna was not there, the Upapandavas were not there. And then, of course, Narada said, oh, they're not here. They're in hell. So if you want to see them, you have to go to hell. Yudhisthira said, I don't care where they are. As long as I am going to go and see them and be with them, I do not care if it is hell. Take me there. Right? So they took him there. And then, of course, when he went there, when he went to hell, he saw his brothers and Draupadi there. And that's when Indra came before him and he said, this is your final test and you are successful because we wanted to see whether you chose heaven or you chose hell, or whether you chose, the love for the family more than the, being selfish yourself. And with that, everybody was raised to heaven. He said, because you lied for that split second about Ashwatthama to Dronacharya, you had to see and experience health, even though it was only for a glimpse of a moment. So the point is, the karma, whatever you do, you will have to face it. So Yama also was there and he said, no, this is not the place for you, my son. You have passed, the tests. And therefore, by virtue of passing this test, you have managed to take everybody, your entire family, up to heaven. So they all went up to the heaven. So what are the things we can learn from Yudhisthira? Number one, unyielding dharma. He never moved away from the path of dharma. So again, I repeat, if you respect and protect dharma and behave dharmically, that very dharma devatha will come and protect you. As I said, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Honesty and truth. At any point in time, he was only speaking honesty and truth. He was known for that. Bhishma used to say to those people who do not, who had doubts, he said, go and ask Yudhisthira. So Yudhisthira was like the center focal point for people who wanted to confirm whether it was truth or not, because he never spoke anything else except truth. Patience and tolerance all through the Vanavasa and the Ajnanavasa. Such patience and tolerance as the eldest brother, right? And he never, like Bhima always wanted to venge. He was vengeful. Arjuna was vengeful. The three fellows who were not vengeful was, Yudhisthira and his two youngest brothers, Nakula and Sahadeva. So non-vengeful character he was, Yudhisthira. And he always had a lot of respect for elders. Only when you respect your elders, the people below you will respect you. Right? Learn to respect those who are younger to you, not just those who are older to you. And those who are younger to you will learn to respect in the same way. But he learned from his mistakes. That's another thing. They say fools make mistakes, wise men learn from them. He never wavered from his dharma because it's duty. That's why Swami says duty is devotion, work is worship. His sense of resilience was marvelous. His kindness, his compassion, and where there's a conflict between choosing power or choosing right conduct, right attitude. He always chose right conduct, right attitude. That was Yudhisthira. So we can take all these good things, right, and inculcate into our lives. No point just listening to the story of Mahabharata and saying, oh, this is what happened. No. What did Mahabharata teach you? What lessons have you learned? What virtues have you inculcated in your life going forward? All these stories are there, right? So how much have you changed with all these stories, right? I started with Bhajagovindam, right? And I moved into the Ithihasas. I've done Ramayana. I've done Bhagavad Gita. I've done all the Upanishads. I've done all the Puranas. I've done all the Yoga Shastras, all the 196 verses. Now I've completed the Mahabharata. I've done Karma. 3 videos are there. I've done Mantra, Yantra, Tantra. I've done Panchakoshas. I've done your chakras, right? I've done so many bhakti, devotion, sacrifice, tyaga, So with all this, you have to see how you are charting your journey going forward, right? So Pancha Pandavas, I said to you, in closing, they are your 5 senses, your Pancha Indriyas. The Kauravas are the 100 illusions that comes to corroborate and pollute and manipulate and manifest itself in your life as vices. They are the device of vices. So that is the main thing, right? Shakuni is the one who incites that illusory elements to come and play havoc in your lives. Krishna is the intelligence and Arjuna is the mind. The mind submits to intelligence. Wisdom starts to operate. When wisdom operates, you are fine, right? That's what happened on the first day. Bhagavad Gita was born. Last day, Vishnu Sahasranama was born, right? If you want to go to the next level without any rebirth, learn the Vishnu Sahasranama or the Lalita Sahasranama and repeat it daily. Nothing else you got to know. These 2 are the secrets. And that's Krishna said that in the Gita. Okay. So I want to close by giving you 7 solid lessons or teachings from the Mahabharata, right? One is a revengeful instinct can only lead to your own destruction. That's lesson number 1, right? A revengeful instinct can only lead to your own destruction, to your own doom. That's the first lesson. So never seek revenge. Always carry on. Yudhisthira did that, right? Whatever came, he took and he went, right? Secondly, stand by for what is right. Even if you have to fight for it, you have to fight for it. And that's what Krishna told Arjuna. Hey, don't worry about that. That's your grandfather, that's your uncle, that's your cousin, all that, don't worry. This is the right thing to do. If you have to fight for the right thing, you fight. Protect your dharma. That is your job as a Kshatriya. So do you want to see example? Look at Bhishma. He knows you are all his grandchildren, for example. But he's fighting because his allegiance is to the Kuru dynasty. Fight for it. Even though it may not be right, but you know it's right for you. Fight for it. Eternal bond of friendship. Friendship between Arjuna and Krishna. What did that lead up to? Friendship between Shakuni and Duryodhana. What did that lead up to? Right? And of course, the 4th lesson is whatever you want to learn it in completeness, because half knowledge is always dangerous. Learn something well. If you want to chant mantras, learn it properly and chant it. Don't read mantras, because mantras are not meant to be read. They are meant to be incanted or chanted. So the chandas and the swaras have to be there, right? It's not read. When you start reading the transliterated version, you will never get the chandas and the meter correctly, right? Then only you get the correct response from chanting. Otherwise, it's a wasted mechanical exercise. The 5th lesson is don't be swayed by greed. You see what happened to Duryodhana, right? When Yudhisthira wanted to, win back, but he ended up losing more, right? In the end, he lost everything that was near and dear to him. The 6th lesson is we should not give up on life despite the troubles, the problems, and the hurdles that we face, right? That, if endured with the right sort of mindset, only makes us stronger, makes us better. Do not give up on life despite all its problems and hurdles. The last one is more woman-centric. Woman-centric means just because you're a woman, do not think that you are a lesser individual, right? Look at Draupadi. Key lesson. Look at Sharada. Look at Meera. All these are big lessons. So even in a great Ithihasa like Ramayana, you had Sita. Mahabharata, you had Draupadi. So that is another lesson that comes out of the great Mahabharata. Do not think you are any less than any man. You are both created equally. Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yati Bhavati Shaktaha. Shaktaha Prabhavitum Nache Devo Devo Nakala Kushalahalas Pandit Mabi. Taswam Aradhyam Hari Hari Varanchadi Prabhi. Pranantum Va Stotum Katamakrita Punya Prabhavati. Adi Shankaracharya. There's no Shiva without Shakti. There's no Shakti without Shiva. Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yati Bhavati. How can anything exist without the equi-forces of Shiva and Shakti? And I want to finish by repeating what Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2. Chapter 2, he said, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma paluhetit bhurma the sangostva karmani. That means you have a right to work, to do that work, but you don't have a right to its fruits. Let not the fruits be your action or be the motive for your action, and nor let your attachment be to inaction. Oh, fantastic. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetudbhurma te sangostva karmani. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Krishna Yarpanamastu. It is my sincere hope this session may have come to an end, but your journey, as is mine, continues. And I hope I have infused you with sufficient, mental food so that you can carry this physical body with that mental sustenance and get across to where you are meant to be. Anyada sharanam nasti tvameva sharanam mama tasmat karunya bhavena raksha raksha maheshwaraha. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sai Ram.